Want to speed up your language learning? Get access to all of our best PDF cheat sheets for free. Just click the link in the description and sign up for your free lifetime account right now.
French body gesture. Sometimes, gestures help us understand people and express ourselves better than the words we speak. If you want to meet new friends, be comfortable around French people, and communicate without being offensive or rude, learning the specifics of French body language and gestures is definitely something that will benefit you. In this video, you'll learn 1. Greeting gestures, 2. Positive gestures, 3. Negative gestures, 4. Neutral gestures, 5. The reason why the French are so rude, and 6. How FrenchPod 101 can help you. Let's start with verbal greetings and their gestures. There are different body gestures when greeting someone in France. Let's start with bonjour, hello, bonjour, bonjour. You can say this while raising your hands and waving your hands from side to side with a swaying motion. It's used in informal situations to greet or say goodbye when you don't feel like doing handshakes or kisses or you're out of arm reach of the people you know. It's a very common hand gesture used by the French. Another way to greet someone is by saying bienvenue, welcome, bienvenue, bienvenue. You can do this at a casual event by opening up your arms and spreading them with a smile. For formal occasions, open only one arm with a smile. This is how you greet your friends or peers in a warm and enthusiastic way. You can also greet your French friend through la bise, which means the kiss. La bise, la bise. Just lean forward and slightly brush cheeks with the other person while mimicking a kiss with the sound and lips gesture. Then switch cheeks and repeat. If you want se serrer la main, which means to shake hands, you can do so by reaching towards someone's hand and doing 1 or 2 up and down movements while looking at the person you're greeting straight in the eye. Se serrer la main. Se serrer la main. Shaking hands is common among friends, colleagues, or strangers in France. Next is positive gestures. Let's learn about French expressions and gestures that tend to have positive connotation. You'll surely find them useful next time you visit in France. First is oui. Yes, excellent. Oui, oui. You can add this by taking a fist and extending your thumbs upward. A thumbs up gesture in France is an all-time classic. Although, if you're from the UK and US, be careful when using OK, where you join your index and thumbs to make a circle. In several European countries, including France, it's a negative meaning, zero, or worthless. Another positive gesture commonly used in France is related to the expression ça va être génial. It's gonna be great. Ça va être génial. Ça va être génial. You just have to rub your palms together when doing this. But you're probably wondering what makes it a positive gesture when it can mean that you're cold. Depending on the context, rubbing your palms together usually convey that you're exciting or expecting something amazing. For example, you do this gesture when you're expecting to make good money or before eating gorgeous-looking meal. Délicieux is also a type of positive gesture in France. It means delicious. Délicieux. Délicieux. It can be done by kissing the joint tips of your finger when joyfully spreading them outward. This gesture is also known as the Italian chef kiss. You can use it when your French host is serving you a delicious, authentic French meal. Next is negative gestures. There are also negative gestures in French or actions that are considered to be rude. Let's get into them right away. The first negative gesture is related to bof, which means something like I don't care, I don't know, I'm not sure. Bof. Bof. It's done by spreading your arms open with palms up, then raising and lowering your shoulders. This infamous Gaelic shrug has many different meanings, so it's not the easiest one to pick up. You can use it when you're feeling indifferent, doubtful, or indecisive, but it can express a wide range of messages. It's not my fault, there is nothing I can do, don't ask me, and more. You can also use bof if you don't want to commit to a straight answer. For example, je t'offre un verre? Can I offer you a drink? Je t'offre un verre? Je t'offre un verre? You can answer with bof. C'est pas mon problème. Not my problem. Not my fault. C'est pas mon problème. C'est pas mon problème. This is another negative gesture that you might want to avoid doing. In this gesture, people raise their hands slightly over their shoulder, palms toward the other person, with their head and shoulder defensively held back. It's a bit similar to the bof shrug, but is perceived as a stronger version where, instead of being indifferent or indecisive, you just don't want anything to do with whatever you're asked for. Quelle barbe! What a drag! Boring! Or literally, what a beard! Quelle barbe! Quelle barbe! This is also a negative gesture in France. It's done by stroking your cheek a few times with the back of your fingers, like you're caressing your beard. This negative gesture comes from old Parisian slang and is only one of many beard-related French idioms. You use this when you feel bored or are annoyed with the people around you, but you're in a situation where you're not allowed to curse. For example, you are assigned to do a tedious task at work. You can turn to your coworkers and stroke your imaginary beard. Another example of a negative gesture is mon œil, meaning I don't believe you, I highly doubt that. Mon œil, mon œil. It's done by using your index finger and pulling down the bottom lid of one eye. This is the French version of the American my foot, to playfully express your disbelief or accuse someone of lying. This is a childish gesture though, so it's not really a good gesture for serious arguments or business negotiations. If you're feeling fed up or have had enough of something really terrible, you may use j'en ai ras-le-bol, which means I'm fed up, I've had enough. J'en ai ras-le-bol. J'en ai ras-le-bol. When translated literally, it just means my bowl is full. But in a French slang, it has unique meaning. When doing it, you can just swipe your hand up horizontally over your head. Combined with an eloquent frown, you can use it to express your annoyance when trouble is spinning way up over your head. Next is neutral gestures. Now, it's time to learn some neutral gestures commonly used in France. They will help you respond appropriately or express yourself without getting misinterpreted. First on the list is shh, shh, keep quiet, shh, shh. This is done by simply extending your index finger and placing it vertically across your mouth. Shh. You probably already know what this gesture means, but since it can take different forms in some countries, it's worth mentioning. Viens. Come here. Viens. Viens is a neutral expression done by extending up your index finger, palm up, and folding it inward. It can also be done with all finger at once. Because this isn't as obvious as it may seem, it should be performed properly. For example, if you use the Japanese palm down version, in France, it can be interpreted as rude and disrespectful. Another neutral gesture you may want to practice is comme ci, comme ça. So, more or less. Comme ci, comme ça. Comme ci, comme ça. Just place your hand in front of you, palm down, and tip it from left to right several times. This convenient gesture can be used in a formal or casual situation. For example, if you're having a bad day and someone asks how you're going, you can use this gesture to respond. Another friend gesture that can express a wide variety of emotion ranging from surprise to annoyance, distress, or disappointment is oh la la, meaning oh no, wow, oh la la, oh la la. You can do it by raising your hand in front of your chest and shaking it loosely as if trying to revive your numb fingers. You can also use it when you're impressed or if someone is in trouble. One funny gesture used to let people know that you're drunk or to raise their awareness of the intoxication of third party is avoir un coup dans le nez. To be drunk. Avoir un coup dans le nez. Avoir un coup dans le nez. Literally, it means to have a drink in the nose. It's done by placing a loose fist around the tip of your nose and rotate it as if trying to unscrew it. Another example of a neutral gesture is c'est pas donné. It's expensive. C'est pas donné. C'est pas donné. Literally, it means it's not given. But this informal gesture works in many situations where lots of money is involved. It's most commonly used for something expensive, but can also mean that something is lucrative. For example, when reading the menu of a pricey restaurant, you could use this gesture toward your friends to tell them you can't afford it, and if you all could find a cheaper restaurant. Just rub your thumbs against the tips of your index and middle finger when doing this gesture. The last example of a neutral gesture is il est fou, elle est cinglée. He's crazy, she's nuts. Il est fou, elle est cinglée. Il est fou, elle est cinglée. It's done by tapping the side of your head with the tip of your index finger. It's a bit similar to the American crazy gesture that will also be understood in France. Obviously, this is a very informal gesture and could be offensive to strangers, so only use it around your friends for humor. Next is why the French are so rude. Don't believe the rumor. French people aren't rude, but still we can't help but wonder, why do some people assume this? France remains one of the top tourism destinations in the world, so where did the rude assumption come from? Allow us to share two different explanations for this. The first reason is body language and perception. Body language is a big deal, more than you can imagine, both around the world and in French culture. Your posture and attitude speak volumes, and people form an opinion right away based on your gestures. For example, French people are more controlled than Americans in terms of body language. Their shoulder and arms stay close to the body. their chests straight in overall rigidity. The French look at it as an expression of restraint, but some call it being tense or stiff, which contributes to this impression of the French being cold and unwelcoming. Another reason is the intonation and gestures. Whatever space French people are taking when they move, they compensate for it when they talk. They use physical gestures to express a wide range of emotions without words, mostly using their face and hands, and it's easy to get the wrong impression if you don't know the language nor the gestures. Since the natural French intonation is also widely guilty of this impression, it makes the French sound angry, using sharp or abusive sounding tones even though they were only having a friendly debate over lunch. Now on to Part 5. How can FrenchPod 101 help you? By teaching you French and getting you to speak from your very first lesson. FrenchPod 101 lesson build you up from your first words to mastering entire conversations. And you get lessons for all levels from absolute beginner to advanced. Enough to take you from knowing zero to speaking fluently. You can also learn with your own teacher with the Premium Plus plan. They'll correct your French, tell you how to improve your speaking, writing, and grammar, and even help you practice for job interviews in French.
Hello is more than just a word. It can be the beginning of a conversation or the body language you use. In this video, you'll learn first, the most common greetings, second, some slang greetings, and third, the body language related to greetings. After watching this video, you'll be greeting both friends and strangers as naturally as any French person. I'll give you all the advice you need to greet people like a native speaker. Let's start with bonjour and salut. These are two easy ways to greet people at any time of day. Bonjour literally means good day. Bonjour. Bonjour. You can use this with anybody in any kind of situation. It's not too formal, but it's not too relaxed either. Easy, hein? Salut. Hi. Salut. Salut. This is more casual and is something that you can use with your friends. It's short and easy to pronounce. You can also use it to say bye. After saying hello, you can add something with a bit more charm and elegance and say, nice to meet you. The most common way to say this is enchanté. Nice to meet you, or literally delighted. Enchanté. Enchanté. You could also say ravi de vous rencontrer. Ravi de vous rencontrer. Or heureux de vous rencontrer. Heureux de vous rencontrer. They both mean happy to meet you. Now, let's see some specific greetings. Make sure that you only use them at the right time with the right people. First is coucou. Hey. Coucou. Coucou. This comes from the sound of a cuckoo bird. As you can probably guess, it isn't a formal greeting. This is as informal as it gets and is used between friends, families, or lovers. It's childish and playful. Next is bonsoir. good evening. Bonsoir. Bonsoir. You can use this when it's too late in the day to use bonjour. Don't worry, if you get your bonsoir and bonjour mixed up, nobody will be offended. So, if bonsoir is good evening and bonjour is good day, what is good morning? Actually, we don't say good morning in France. French speakers in Quebec might say bon matin, but that's not common in France and it's best avoided. Bon matin. Bon matin. Remember, some formulas might sound like greetings, but they're not. These are bonne matinée, good morning, bonne matinée. Bonne journée, good day, bonne journée. Bonne soirée, good evening, bonne soirée. They're all used to say goodbye. Next is allô, hello, allô, allô. This is only used on phone calls. If you're not sure if the person you're calling can hear you, then you can say allô. You can always start phone conversation with this. Next, we'll look at how to say how are you in French. Here are some examples. The first expression is formal. Comment allez-vous? How are you doing? Comment allez-vous? Comment allez-vous? The casual version is comment vas-tu? Comment vas-tu? Comment vas-tu? Other common casual forms are comment ça va? How's it going? Comment ça va? Comment ça va? Or, tu vas bien? Are you good? Tu vas bien? Tu vas bien? If somebody says comment ça va to you, how should you answer? Well, the common answer is ça va, which literally means it goes. Ça va, ça va. A more personal answer is ça va bien, it's going well. Ça va bien, ça va bien. Or you could even say comme ci comme ça, so. Comme ci comme ça, comme ci comme ça. Now, let's do slang. Because when you're in France, you're not always going to use textbook French. A couple of fun ways to say hi are yo, yo, yo. The other one is wesh, wesh, wesh. You can also say ça fait un bail. It means long time no see. Ça fait un bail. Ça fait un bail. Next is la forme. Literally means the shape, but we use it to mean how are you doing? La forme. La forme. Another quick question you can ask is bien. It literally means good. Bien. Bien. Next is body language. And there's one pretty infamous way of greeting people in France. We'll get to that in a second. First, handshakes are the most popular greeting in France by far. Make sure that you take the other person's hands in a firm grip and really shake their hands well. Eye contact is a must. You can shake hands with anyone, whether it's the first time you've met them or the hundreds. We don't usually hug as a greeting. That's something that's kept for close family members or romantic partners. Now, it's time to move on to the greeting you might have thought about earlier. La bise, the kiss. La bise, la bise. It's a kiss on the cheek. It isn't really considered as a kiss though. It's just a way of saying hello. Anybody can practice la bise, no matter what gender, age, sexual orientation, or relationship they have. A similar greeting is faire la bise, literally, to do the kiss. Faire la bise, faire la bise. With this one, there is no contact between lips and cheek. You make kissing gestures and sounds, but don't actually kiss. Make sure that your cheeks do touch though. It's easy to get stressed out by la bise. What side should I kiss? How many kisses should I do? Don't worry. Just go with the flow and see what the other person does. Most French people will do 2 kisses, but some regions will do 3 or 4. Try and be prepared for anything. In this lesson, you learn how to greet people in France in different situations. Remember, in case of doubt, you can always just say bonjour.
Hey guys, it's Pierre from France and welcome back for more videos on French learning. Today's video will be about casual French. Like, you know, maybe you've noticed that, but French people, when they speak as a casual way, the way they speak is really different from the way you've learned French at school. So here I'm going to explain what are the three main rules that are used in casual French. So first, this is the elision of the negation. This is really common and more French people are doing that even in non-casual situation. This is, you get rid of the ne and the n. So for example, here, je ne sais pas, like I don't know. So you've learned that when you add the negation, you have to add ne and then the negation like pas. But in practice, we get rid of it. So here you say je sais pas, je sais pas. This is casual. Like if you want to stay polite, remain more polite, it's better to say that. But je sais pas, like I use that with my parents, with my family, with my friends. So this is really common. And same when you have the N, which is the same word, just because here there is a vowel, you get rid of the I. So il n'y a personne, il n'y a personne. So again, like here, this is the negation, and you've got the N, like the couple negative word and N. Il n'y a personne. Il y a personne. Il y a personne. So here, nothing. Il y a personne. Just this negation. The meaning is nobody's here. Nobody's here. Il y a personne. Il n'y a personne. Il y a personne. So this is really easy. Like you just get rid of that. No specific rule. Like really easy. And I think this is really easy to get used to it. So this was the first one. The second one is the non-inversion. When you ask a question in French, you have to do the inversion, and it's quite similar in English. But usually in casual situations, you don't do the inversions. So when you say es-tu arrivé, like did you arrive, es-tu arrivé, you just say tu es arrivé. So here, like if it was not a question, tu es arrivé. So like to make the distinction between like an affirmative sentence and a question, this is the tonality and the context that will help you to understand if it's a question or not. Tu es arrivé? Tu es arrivé? Tu es arrivé. Like, this is quite subtle, especially here because there is no context, but Usually it's not that hard to understand the difference. Tu es arrivé. Usually you go up at the end of the sentence. Tu es arrivé. Tu es arrivé. And yeah, you can guess with the context. So here you have that. But sometimes, you know, there is interrogative words like comment, like in English, how. How do you make it? Comment fais-tu? Here, there is two ways to become more casual. Comment tu fais? So here again, you don't do the inversion. But there is one other possibility, which is putting this at the end of the sentence. And of course, you don't do the inversion. So, tu fais comment? Comment fais-tu? Comment tu fais? Tu fais comment? So here, you see that you can like make the order that you want for all these sentences, for this, like those three sentences, exactly the same meaning. Like those two one, or like there is no subtlety of meaning between those two. Here it's more polite, but here it's like really equivalent. So you can choose what you want, and it's not only applicable, like you can also use that with other interrogative nouns, and you can also do that with other interrogative words like combien, how much, or how old, like quel âge. But there is one exception that you need to keep in mind, is que. So when you ask a question, you say que fais-tu, which is quite polite. What are you doing? What are you doing? Que fais-tu? In polite situation. You cannot use the non-inversion. You cannot say que tu fais. No meaning in that. It's totally wrong. So what you can do is putting that at the end of the sentence. But if you do that, you don't use que, but you use quoi. Tu fais quoi? What are you doing? Tu fais quoi? So just remember that, like que and quoi, it's quite different. Like there is this little trick that you have to keep in mind. But basically, you don't do the inversion when you ask a question, and I think you can do that in English as well. So this is quite similar. So those two rules, elision of the negation and non-inversion, are quite easy to understand, and like you will easily get used to it. But the last one is a bit more complicated because there are some rules. This is contractions. You know, like you can do some contractions in French, but in casual situations, you can do even more contractions. So here, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rules that I'm going to show you. And with this, you will be able to do casual contractions in French. So first, je. You know that when there is je and then a vowel, you have to do a contraction. But in casual situations, you can also do a contraction with a consonant. So in casual situations, with je, you always do a contraction. Je plus a consonant become j. So for example, je bois du vin. It means like I drink wine. I'm drinking wine. Je bois du vin. Je bois. Je bois. Je bois. Je bois. Je bois. So this is really casual. If you want to remain, like, if you want to be polite, it's better to say that. But with your friends, je bois will be way more natural. Here again, there is M, which is a consonant. Je m'appelle Pierre. Je m'appelle Pierre. Je m'appelle. So here you can see that there is two contractions, but it's not, as it is a common contraction, you don't pay attention to that. It's like the M, which is important. So you say just je m'appelle. So here it's really easy, and like it's better to say je m'appelle with your friends than je m'appelle Pierre. But once again, if you say that, like if you don't do the contractions, or even if you don't do those two rules, like the elision of the non-inversion, it's definitely okay. It's just like if you really want to sound like a typical young French, it's better to know those rules. But like, who cares if you can speak like a young French? Like in a language, what is important is to be understood. So I'm just introducing you those rules, like that you will be able to understand them. So this is with je, but there is one additional rule with je. It's when there is an S. So S is a consonant. So you can do either that, just that, or changing this sound into sh. So here, You remember that? Je ne sais pas, je sais pas. So here we are going to use the elision and also the contraction. So you can say je sais pas if you apply this rule. Je sais pas, je sais pas, je sais pas. But it's quite hard to say je sais pas. Maybe you have difficulties to say it. So usually French people also say je sais pas, je sais pas, je suis pas, je sais pas. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but it's way easier for the mouth and the tongue to say je sais pas instead of je sais pas. But you can say both. But personally, I use this one a lot. Je sais pas. So here is another example. Je suis perdu. I mean, like something like I'm lost. Je suis perdu. Je suis perdu. Je suis perdu. Or, je suis perdu. Je suis perdu. Je suis perdu. Can you hear the difference? It's quite subtle. But anyway, this, if you have difficulties to say that, just use the sound CH. And let's move on to the next one, which is with tu. So you know tu, there is no contraction usually with tu. So here, in casual French, you can add one contraction when there is a vowel. Like you cannot do the contraction when there is a consonant, but when there is a vowel, you can do the contraction. So here, for example, tu as faim? It's a question, and you can notice like I'm doing again the non-inversion here. Tu as faim? T'as faim. Tu as faim? T'as faim. This is shorter, and we use this a lot. So here, there is a vowel, so we can do the contraction. But here, tu manges. You cannot do any contraction here. You have to say tu manges, even in casual situation. Tu manges. And let's move on to the next one, which is il. Here again, this is only with consonants. So there is nothing you can do, no contraction you can do usually with il. It's like tu. But here with consonant and consonant only, not vowel this time, you can do a kind of contraction which is turning il into I, like with a Y, but you say I. So when you say il mange quoi? Question. Again, like you can see that I'm using this pattern. What are you doing? Tu fais quoi? Il mange quoi? So I'm using this pattern. Il mange quoi? 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 But here, if there is a vowel, il était malade, you cannot do any contraction. You have to say il était malade. Il était malade. You cannot just use I. So il mange quoi? Il mange quoi? And there is one exception, like which is not really a kind of exception, but it's not like a contraction, but it's an elision of il. It's when you hear il y a. For example, il y a 2 ans, 2 years ago, il y a 2 ans. Instead of doing il y a, you just say ya. Like you get rid of this and you add this to this letter and you say ya. Ya. Il y a 2 ans, il y a 2 ans, 2 years ago. Il y a 2 ans, formal situation. Casual situation, il y a 2 ans, 2 years ago. So we've seen je, tu, il, like personal pronoun, but here is another form of, like the equivalent of je is me, the equivalent of tu is te, and the equivalent of il is se. So here, with that, there is also a contraction that you can do when there is, again, a consonant. Because usually, when there is a vowel, you do the contraction. But here, in casual French, you can do also the contraction with the consonant. So here, like the same rule is applied. Je me fais à manger. Je me fais à manger. Like I'm cooking for myself. I'm cooking myself. Je me fais à manger. I'm cooking for myself. So you can say je me fais, je me fais, je me fais. Je me fais, je me fais. But you see that there is also here je and a consonant. So you can also do je me fais, but you cannot do both because it's really hard. You cannot say the two contractions in the same time. The idea of a contraction is to speak easier, like to have an easy way to speak and a faster way to speak. But here it's really hard to say if you try to do the two contractions. So we don't do that. We never do that. So here you have to choose between one of the two, and it's exactly the same meaning. There is no nuance in the meaning. So je me fais, je me fais, je me fais, je me fais, je me fais. Formal situation, je me fais, and then you can choose in casual situation, je me fais or je me fais. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but again, as long as you can understand when someone say je me fais, like you don't care which kind of contraction he used, what is important is you understand the meaning of the sentence. So here again with te, tu te promènes, tu te promènes, tu te promènes, tu te promènes, tu te promènes. Like, I think it's quite hard to hear my T sometimes. Tu te promènes, tu te promènes. So this is a way to contract the te. Tu te promènes, tu te promènes, tu te promènes, tu te promènes. So again, consonant here, P, you can do the contraction. And here, il se couche tôt, 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 il se couche tôt. Like he is going to bed early. Il se couche tôt. And here, you can also use this rule, because here there is il plus a consonant. Il se couche tôt. And here you can apply both rules. You can do this one and this one. Unlike in this situation, you can do with il, you can transform the il into i. So it means like you have to say il se couche tôt, il se couche tôt, il se couche tôt, il se couche tôt, il se couche tôt. Il se couche tôt, formal situation. Il se couche tôt, casual situation. And il se couche tôt, even more casual. Like it's like the same casualty, like the same casualness. Il se couche tôt, il se couche tôt. So don't focus too much on the difference. There is no real difference between those two. So here you can, like, just keep in mind that you can do the contraction with that, and here you cannot. Like the two contractions you cannot, and here you can do the two contractions. The reason is it's really easy to say when you do the two contractions here, and it's not easy to say when you do the two contractions here. So if you want a real reason for what we can do two contractions here and not two here, it's because it's easy to say in French. Il se couche tôt, really easy, no difficulties. And let's move on to another one, which is again with e, which is, but this time is le and de. And again, when there is a consonant, you can say l or de. Usually you have to do that again when there is a vowel, but here you can also, in casual situations, again, you can do with a consonant. So, when you say j'ai pas le temps, j'ai pas le temps, j'ai pas le temps, this is like the formal form. You can say j'ai pas le temps, j'ai pas le temps, j'ai pas le temps, j'ai pas le temps, okay. Like formal situation, j'ai pas le temps. And in a casual situation, j'ai pas le temps, j'ai pas le temps, j'ai pas le temps. So here it's with le, but here is an example with de. Le train va de Paris à Marseille. Le train va de Paris à Marseille. Like the train goes from Paris to Marseille, which is a city in the south of France. And here I forgot to translate that, but j'ai pas le temps, like I don't have time. Quite easy. I don't have time. J'ai pas le temps, pas le temps. So here, le train va de Paris à Marseille. 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 Usually, like sometimes it's quite difficult to say deep those two sounds. So sometimes the D turns into a kind of T. Le train va de Paris à Marseille. Le train va de Paris à Marseille. Le train va de Paris à Marseille. So this is not exactly a D, not exactly a T. It's like a kind of in between, but don't focus too much on that. As long as you can understand again, this is quite fine. Le train va de Paris à Marseille. This one, like, I think le train va de Paris à Marseille, I would use both. Like, even in casual situations, I think I might also say de Paris à Marseille. But I guess it depends on the feeling. Le train va de Paris à Marseille. Le train va de Paris à Marseille. So, again, le de, with only consonant. Because usually you can do the contraction when there is a vowel. No need to be in a casual situation. And the last one is like a kind of, some sort of general rule of what we've seen. Because here you've noticed that there is e. Here again, e, like e in English, but e is the French way to say e in English, in French. So here, you can do a contraction when there is a consonant, but in fact, you can do a contraction with e, like you can always do a contraction with e when there is a consonant just after e. So it's also something that is true in the middle of words. So here, when I say petit cheval, like a small horse, petit cheval, small horse, you can say petit cheval, petit cheval. Here, I get rid of the E here, and here again, because there is a vowel, there is a consonant here, the T and the V, so I can say petit cheval, petit cheval, petit cheval. It's not like, you can say just one if you want, or the two, or even none of them, but like it's quite common to say that, petit cheval. And here I'm just going to do the contraction for cheval, petit cheval, petit cheval. So here I just get rid of the E in cheval, petit cheval, petit cheval. So petit cheval, full sentence, petit cheval, and then petit cheval. So here I just did one contraction, and I'm going to do the two contractions, petit cheval, petit cheval. And here is another one which is really common in French, even in non-casual situation. This is the verb acheter. Acheter, to buy in English. You have, because here there is an E and there is T, you can say acheter, acheter. But there is one subtlety. You know that sometimes when you use the conjugations of this verb, you can add the accent. For example, when you say j'achète, here there is an accent. So here, like this rule, you can only use it when there is no accent. Here there is an accent, so you cannot, like I don't know how you would manage to do it, because it's really hard. You cannot do the contraction here. But if there is no accent in the middle of the word, you can do this contraction. So this with the verb acheter, you can do the contraction sometimes when there is no accent. Acheter, acheter du pain, to buy some bread. Acheter du pain, acheter. Acheter, acheter. No contraction, acheter. With the contraction, acheter. So here we've seen that this is kind of generalization of those rules. So far we've seen that we can do the elision of the negation. Ne, you get rid of it. You can also get rid of the mandatory inversion in questions. Es-tu arrivé? Tu es arrivé. With some exceptions that you have to keep in mind with que. And also contractions, which are really important in casual French, with all those rules. Je, tu, il, me, te, se, le, de, and e in middle of words. So now you know how to use that, but maybe you don't know when to use that. Like the distinction between casual and formal is not quite true. Like in many situations at shops and stuff like that, you will do sometimes the contractions. But what you have to keep in mind as a French learner is the less contractions and the less casual French you use, the clearer you are. So like sometimes when a friend don't understand what I'm saying, when I will repeat the sentence, even if it's a French person, I will get rid of all those rules. I will say the full sentences because it's clearer to speak with that. So if you're not confident with the French pronunciation, I think it's better not to use that. So why learning that? I think it's also important to learn that because when you speak to someone, like a French person, he can sometimes speak with that. Like this person can sometimes use casual French. So it's good to know that to be able to understand what he is saying. But for you, what is important is to be understood. So just use like full sentences instead of using contractions and stuff like that if you're not confident enough. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for watching this video. Hey guys, this is Pierre from France. Today's lesson we will target present tense. So you know in French you've got a lot of tense, and the most basic one is the présent, present. Although the name is quite explicit and quite similar to the English word and the English tense, we need to explain to you some subtleties, some nuances that are happening with the usage of the present tense. So first we will target the usage, then I will show you how to form it, and then we will do some exercise to be sure that you understood everything. So let's get started with the usage. So here you can see 5 different usages. So the first one is current actions. So like in English, when you want to explain an action that is being done, you use present. So here, first example, je mange du pain. Here the verb is in red, manger, mange. Je mange du pain. In English, you can translate that by, you can use I am eating bread, or I eat bread. I am eating bread, or I eat bread. Je mange du pain. So here, one way to translate that is to use the present in English as well, but also you can use the progressive one, I am eating bread. So this is current actions. In English, you can use present or progressive present, but in French, it's generally just present. Here you've got another example, il a faim. Il a faim. He is hungry. He is hungry. Il a faim. The verb here, avoir, a, present. So basically here you're expressing a feeling. So for a feeling, you usually just use the present. So that's current actions or current feelings. So here, what you're doing, I'm eating bread, je mange du pain, you use present. Or il a faim, I am hungry, this is my feeling, this is the current action, the action of feeling something. So this is present. So I think this is quite similar to the English one. So this is something really simple for you to understand. Remember that in many different situations you translate progressive present with present, simple present in French. So this was the first one for current actions. Then you've got another one, which is when an action has started before but is still underway. So basically here, je fais du tennis depuis 10 ans. I have been playing tennis for 10 years. So here, the tense that you use in English is not present. This is to be doing something. You use to be doing something. I have been playing tennis for 10 years. Je fais du tennis depuis 10 ans. Here, this is présent. Présent, je fais. Je fais. So like you're not doing actually tennis, like you're not currently playing tennis, but for 10 years you've been regularly doing some tennis, so you use, and you're still doing it, so you use présent, present, je fais. So this is an action that started, but is still underway. So here, you started before, but you're still doing it. So this is something that can be translated. This is present is a way to translate to be doing something in French. Then you've got true facts. True facts. Il s'appelle Pierre. So this is my name, Pierre. Il s'appelle Pierre. My name is Pierre, or his name is Pierre here. His name is Pierre. This is true. Il s'appelle Pierre. This is a fact that is true, so we use present here. But here is like something that is like general, like a general truth. La Terre tourne autour du Soleil. the Earth revolves around the sun. So this is true, and you need to use present to express that. And in English as well, you use present. So this is similar. For facts, true facts, you use present like in English. Then the next one is habits. When you want to express an habit that you have, you need to use the present in French. For example, if you are vegetarians and you want to say that you only eat vegetables, you can say Je ne mange que des légumes. Je ne mange que des légumes. I only eat vegetables. Légumes, vegetables. I only eat vegetables. So here, that's an habit that you have. Like when you eat, it's always vegetables. So here you use present. Je ne mange que des légumes. Another example is chaque lundi, je vais au cinéma. Chaque lundi, je vais au cinéma. Every Monday, you go to cinema. You go to the theater. So here, chaque lundi, je vais au cinéma. This is an habit that you have, so you need to use present. Like this is an action that you do regularly. Here, every Monday. Chaque lundi, je vais au cinéma. Every Monday, I go to the theater. So this is an habit. And the last one is actions about to happen. If you want to say that you will arrive at 2 p.m., in English you use will arrive. But you can also say I arrived at 2 p.m. In French, this is more common to use just present. So if you want to say that you want to underline that the action is really about to happen, like it means you will really arrive soon, you can just drop the future and use the present. J'arrive vers 14 heures. J'arrive vers 14 heures. I will arrive at 2 p.m. or literally, I arrive at 2 p.m. You can also use the future here, but when you use the present, it means like it's really about to happen. So that's something that is almost done. Another example here is je regarde un dernier épisode, puis je dors. So here you've got two verbs that are in present. Je regarde un dernier épisode, puis je dors. So I watch one last episode and then I go to sleep. So here it's present, but you still haven't watched your episode yet. Je regarde un dernier épisode. I'm about to watch one more episode and then I will go to bed. But here, because you want to, you're about to start but you still haven't started yet, you use present. Je regarde un dernier épisode, et puis je dors. Here again, when you say you use the present, it means, okay, I'm soon gonna go to bed. It's just one last episode. So this is like really about to happen as well. So for the two verbs, you use present. So you've got 5 different kind of usages. Current actions, actions that have started but are still underway, true facts, habits, and actions about to happen. This is slightly different from English, so be sure to understand the difference. Basically, when you use I have been playing or I have been doing something, usually in French it's translated with present. And when you say I am doing something, I am eating, for example, in most of the case, you will translate in French with something in present, a verb in present. I am eating, je mange. But it's not always the case, but that's like kind of a tendency. So you've got this pattern and this pattern that are sometimes translated into English. So in most cases, you will use English present and French present in the same situations. But sometimes you've got some differences. As you can see here, to be doing something, here it's present. Or to have been doing something, here again it's present. And sometimes the will, like for the future, is dropped. So I will arrive, just j'arrive. So be careful with that. And remember all those usages. Now let's move on how to form that. The first thing that you need to know when you learn the difference between all the forms in French is the groups. So you know that there are 4 different groups. The first group, the second group, the third group, and then the auxiliaries. So I'm going to explain it once again. The first group is all the verbs ending with ER. ER, so here you've got an example, to walk, marcher. It's a verb from the first group, words ending with ER. Then you've got the second group with verbs ending with IOR, IOR, IOR. But it's not all the verbs ending with IOR. Some of them are in the third group, so be careful. But most of them are in the second group. And then you've got the irregular verbs that are all the other verbs, and they are like really tricky because you need to learn by heart how to change their form. So that's kind of a pain, but you really need to know that because it's usually made of really common verbs like pouvoir, to be able to, or vouloir, to want. You need to learn those. So this is something that you need to be careful. First group, second group, third group. And sometimes verb ending with IR are also in the third group. And then you've got the 2 auxiliaries. The 2 auxiliaries in French are avoir and être, to have and to be. So here is the conjugaison, the different forms for all of the verbs, all of the categories, and for the present only. So here, what is good with the first 2 categories, the first 2 groups, is it's regular. You've got no exceptions. So here is the verb marcher, to walk, je marche, I at the end, tu marches, IS at the end, il, elle marche, I at the end, nous marchons, ONS at the end, vous marchez, I, they, and then il, elle marche, ENT. So what you need to do is just get rid of the ending, the ER, and you add always the same ending. So this is really simple. Be sure to learn all those endings, and you will be able to do the changement for the form for all the verbs of this group. And then this is similar in the second group, except the ending is a bit different. So here, if we take this verb finir, to finish, you've got fini, fini, fini with a T, finissons, finissez, finissent. So here, be sure to check the S, and the T, and then those differences. And if you know the verb, you know it's a second group, you just get rid of the IR and you add the correct ending depending on the subject. So that's how you do that. And then be careful, once again, if some verbs ending with IR are from irregular verbs group. So be careful, you need to know that. And I'm not going to explain all the irregularities because otherwise it would be too long. But here are the 2 auxiliaries and you really need to know them. So here it's for the present, j'ai. Here, because it's starting with the vowel, you get rid of the I. Then tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. And then for the verb to be, suis, je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, and ils sont. Ils sont. So this is what you need to remember for the present, and then learn the irregular verbs. So this is really simple. Like this is the easiest tense in French, and this is the most common one. So basically, we are lucky for that. So just remember all those endings. And now let's do some practice, because it's always good to, after a lesson, to practice. So here are 3 different sentences with a gap here, and I want you to complete with the verbs in blue here. So here you've got tu, and then the verb pleurer, it means to cry, and then pour un rien. So can you try by yourself to complete? I'm going to show you the answer after showing you all the examples. So here, il, something, the verb guérir, to cure or to heal.
plus vite que ce que je pensais. Il, plus vite que ce que je pensais. And then the last one, je, the verb to be, être, toujours le dernier. So if you have difficulties to understand the meaning of the sentences, I'm going to translate that into English. Tu, pour un rien, you're crying for nothing. Then the second one is, he is healing faster than I was expecting. And then the last one, I am always the last one. So here, you've got the three verbs. Try it by yourself, and then I will show you the answers. Okay, so the answers are pleurer. Pleurer ends with ER. So it's first group. So the subject is tu. Tu, ES. So you just get rid of ER and you add ES, and you've got pleure. Tu pleures pour un rien. You cry for nothing. Then, guérir. Guérir, IR. Luckily, this is a second group verb. So you just check the subject. Il. You see here IT. So this is guérir. You get rid of the IT and you add you get rid of the IR and you add IT here. And the last one, verb être, here. Je, être, toujours le dernier. Je, subject, here, verb. So, je suis toujours le dernier. So I'm gonna repeat once again. Tu pleures pour un rien. You cry for nothing. Il guérit plus vite que ce que je pensais. He is healing faster than I was expecting. Je suis toujours le dernier. I'm always the last one. So this was the first exercise. The second one might be a bit more difficult. I want you to translate a sentence from English to French. So here, she has been playing piano for 10 years. And the second one may be a bit more difficult. Whenever I get late, I feel bad. So the first one, she has been playing piano for 10 years. It's using a pattern that we've seen before. Do you remember? Okay, so now I'm going to show you the answers. She has been playing piano for 10 years. Elle joue du piano depuis 10 ans. Elle joue du piano depuis 10 ans. So here you've got the verb that is playing. Playing. Joue. Present. Joue is first group verb. So you just take this subject, you see it's E, so you add E at the end. And then the last one, whenever I get late, I feel bad. The translation is, à chaque fois que je suis en retard, so here there is a space, je me sens mal. So here there are two verbs, get late and feel bad. So get late is être en retard. Être en retard. So like it's like to be late, the literal translation of to be late. Je suis en retard. Je suis here. And then I feel bad. In French, the translation for to feel good or to feel bad, it's se sentir mal. Se sentir mal. So here you take the transformation. The subject is I, and then sentir. Sentir is irregular, so you need to know how to form it. And this is this. This form is sentir. So this one was a bit more difficult. So be sure to check all the irregular verbs. That's really important for you if you want to master all the common verbs in French, because the most common verbs are irregular. That's a pity, but you really need to learn that. So let's sum it up. So here we've seen the usage. So 5 different usages. When this is the current actions, when you started the actions but it's still underway, and also when you've got like true facts and habits, and then actions that are about to happen. It's still not, still hasn't happened yet, but it's really close to be done. Like it's about to happen. And then you need to remember all those different endings. So for the 2 groups, for the 2 main verbs, avoir and être, and then learn the irregular verbs. That's really important. Well, if you remember all that, present tense is really easy for you now. So I really hope you like it. Hey guys, this is Pierre from France. And today's lesson will target the subject of the composite past, the passé composé in French. This is the main tense when you want to talk about the past in French. So be sure to master that. First, we will talk about the form, the structure, how you can create this tense. And then, after some examples, I will show you how to use it. So first, the form, the structure. You need the subject, like always with verbs in French, and then an auxiliary and a verb. You need 2 verbs in a certain way. You need 2 verbs in a way to create the passé composé. The reason why there is the word composé or composites is because you need 2 verbs. You need the verb that you want to use and an auxiliary. The auxiliary is être or avoir. Être or avoir. One of those 2. You need to conjugate the first auxiliary, the first verb, so the auxiliary, at the present tense, so really simple, and then the verb. Each verb in French has a unique past participle, so you only need to remember one, and then you're done with the conjugation of the verb. But first, you need to know the auxiliary and how to conjugate that in present tense. So here is a quick summary. Être, the different forms are je suis, tu es, il or elle est, nous sommes, vous êtes, and then ils or elles sont. So this is for the first one, être, and then for avoir, to have. J'ai, tu as, il a or elle a, nous avons, vous avez, ils or elles ont. So you need to remember those 2 auxiliaries. And once, if you know only those 2 auxiliaries, you know how to form, like you've done half of the way. You know half of what you need to know to create the composite past. Then what remains is the past participle. The past participle is, as I said, a unique form. And it's sometimes really easy to know what is this form. So if you take the classic division of the verbs in French, you've got the first group, verbs ending with ER, second group, verbs ending with IR, and then irregular verbs, the third group. So here, if you've got a verb from the first group, so ending with ER, the past participle is really simple. You just need to get rid of the E and the R, and you add E with the accent. So for example, for the verb manger, to eat, manger. Same pronunciation, exactly the same pronunciation, except you get rid of the R and you add the accent. Then for the second group, so verbs, most of the verbs ending with IR, some of them are irregular. So for most of the verbs ending with IR, you just use I. So you get rid of the R and you got the I. So for example, for this verb, to finish, finir, fini. So really simple. You get rid of the R. And then for irregular verbs, you need to learn by heart again. But it's only this time you only need to master one word, like the past participle, and then you're done. So this is not that hard, and it's usually always similar endings like you or I or is. So here you can see some examples. When you lose something, to lose, perdre, perdu. So here it's you. Vouloir, to want something, to want, voulu. Mourir, to die, mort. Another example, prendre, to take, pris, with an S. So this, for the irregular verbs, you need to remember the forms, but it's only one form that you need to remember. So that's not that difficult. And then you know everything about how to form the past participle, but there is one thing that I didn't mention, is how to choose the auxiliary, because you cannot just pick one of them. You need to be careful. So there is one rule to decide how to choose the auxiliary. In almost all the cases, it's avoir. But if the verb is a change of state, for example, the verb is arrive somewhere, to arrive, then it's a change of state. You moved. So for that, you need to use être. So this is the rule. So if you've got a change of state here, change of state, it's always être, and otherwise it's avoir. So it's a bit tricky to remember what is a verb that is means a change of state. So for that, usually it's the habits that will help you to distinguish which verb you need to use. But in most cases, it's always avoir. So here are some examples to make sure that you understood everything. So for the verb manger, with the subject, you've got here I, j'ai mangé, j'ai mangé, I ate. Then for the verb arrive, arriver, as I said, you need to use the auxiliary être, because with arriver, you like changing the state. Your state is changing, so this is like that. Tu es arrivé, you arrived. Then here is perdre, to lose. Ils ont perdu. So really simple. Perdre, you use avoir. Then you've got vouloir. Nous avons voulu. Again, vouloir is like just a common verb. It's irregular, but it's there is no like change of state, so it's avoir. Nous avons voulu. Nous avons, and then here, vouloir, voulu. Nous avons voulu. Then rester. Elle est restée. Here, this is a change of state. Rester means to stay. And when you say to stay, you can feel that, oh, okay, you're not changing your state. But in French, it means that you're changing. The changement is you're not changing, but it's a change of state. So you need to use the verb être. So here, elle est restée. Elle est restée. And you can see here, I added an E. It's not just like that. I added this red E, and the reason is, when you use the verb être, the auxiliary être, you have one more rule. This rule is you need to check the subject, and depending if the subject is feminine plural or feminine plural, you need to add something. So here, you've got a feminine subject, so you need to add the E at the end. In French, E is often the mark of the feminization. So the feminization of a word is with the E, so here you need to feminize the word because the subject and the auxiliary is être and the subject is feminine. Here is another example, partir. So you change the state, you leave. Partir, to leave. Je suis parti. So here again, you need to use être. Je suis parti. So no specific rules here at the end because the subject is je, and when you don't know if je is masculine or feminine, you assume that it's masculine, so you don't do anything. And here, the last one is mourir. The subject here is les feuilles, the leaves. Les feuilles sont mortes. Les feuilles sont mortes. The leaves are dead. So here, mourir is a change of state. You're alive and then you're dead. So you change your state. And here, since les feuilles, the leaves, is a feminine word and also plural, you need to add es, as I said here. Feminine plural, es. Les feuilles sont mortes. So be careful with that, with the verb être. Être is used when you've got a change of state, and when you use it, you check the subject and you might need to add es or es at the end, depending on the gender of the word, feminine plural or feminine plural. So that's what you need to remember. And then, what about the usage of the passé composé? There are two main usages. So the first one is when you talk about a past event that is still affecting the present. So right now, like if I said, j'ai rangé ma chambre. Right now, j'ai rangé ma chambre. It means I've tied up my room, but it means that it's still tied up. Like now it's clean. It's not something that was done before and now it's not true anymore. J'ai rangé ma chambre. I did it in the past and it's still done. So this is one of the first example. And the second one is j'ai perdu mes clés. So it's really similar. J'ai perdu mes clés. I lost my keys. It means that you lost them, but you still haven't found them again. So they are still lost. J'ai perdu mes clés. So this is the first usage. And the second one is when you talk about a past event that is definitely over. So usually it's for historical event and also for actions that you did, but they are not affecting the present anymore. It's like done once and for all. So the example here is j'ai mangé une pomme. J'ai mangé une pomme. I ate an apple. It means like maybe a few hours ago, a few days ago, a few moments ago, you ate an apple and it's done. The apple is eaten and nothing more. J'ai mangé une pomme. Then another example is mon frère est né il y a 5 ans. My brother was born 10 years ago or 5 years ago here. 5 years ago. So this is something that happened 5 years ago. And this is like a single event. He was born and then it's done. So here you need to use the past participle because this event was done only once and now it's done, definitely done. It's not affecting the present, but it's like a unique event in the past. So here, est né, this is the passé composé. So here the verb is to be born. So in French, it's the verb to be born is naître, naître. And then you need to use the auxiliary être, which is, the reason is because it's a change of state. So you need to do mon frère est né, so être, and then né, which is the past participle of naître. And the last one is, la Révolution française s'est déroulée en 1789. So this one is talking about a historical event. So this is really punctual again. This has occurred only once in the past and now it's done. So when you say that, you're referring to this event that was done and now it's definitely over. La Révolution française s'est déroulée en 1789. So the French Revolution occurred in 1789. So this is the two different usages that you can do with the past participle. It's quite simple, but be sure to check and to be sure if that's the correct tense. There is one additional thing that I want to tell you. This thing is concerning how to translate the passé composé in English. The passé composé is like you can translate it with two different things in English. You can use the preterite or the present perfect. And the situations can depend. So in most cases, when you've got the past event still affecting present, you would use like the present perfect to translate that. And for past event definitely over, generally it's the preterite. But it's not like a truth for everything. You need to be careful. But here, j'ai rangé ma chambre. I've tied up my room. So this is here present perfect, the translation. J'ai perdu mes clés. I've lost my keys. Again, present perfect. And here, j'ai mangé une pomme. I ate an apple. Here, prétérit, preterite. Mon frère est né il y a 5 ans. My brother was born 5 years ago. Was. So here it's preterite again. So be sure to understand that preterite is not passé composé and present perfect is not passé composé. This is sometimes you need to translate passé composé with préterite and sometimes with like present perfect. So be sure to check that. And that's all for today. So be sure to remember how to form that and to be sure that you understood the tricky situation with the être verb. And then if you remember the usage, you are perfectly good with this tense. This is one of the most common one, and this is a kind of easy one. So be sure to really understand everything. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video.
Now, let's take a look at some conversational phrases.
Listen to the dialogue.
Que faites-vous dans la vie? Je suis un artiste.
Listen to it again, now with the English translation.
Que faites-vous dans la vie?
What do you do?
Je suis un artiste.
I'm an artist. First of all, you need to learn how to say, what do you do? That's.
Que faites-vous dans la vie?
Listen to it again.
Que faites-vous dans la vie? Que faites-vous dans la vie?
Now, how do you answer this question? This is the pattern you'll need.
Je suis un.
Your occupation. I'm an, your occupation. For example, I'm an artist.
Je suis un artiste. Je suis un artiste.
Here are a few more professions you can use with the same pattern. Police officer,
Policier. Policier.
Policière. Policière.
teacher,
Enseignant. Enseignant.
Enseignante. Enseignante.
doctor,
Médecin. Médecin.
Doctoresse. Doctoresse.
engineer,
Ingénieur. Ingénieur.
Now, listen to some examples.
Que faites-vous dans la vie? Je suis un enseignant. Que faites-vous dans la vie? Je suis un médecin. Que faites-vous dans la vie? Je suis un ingénieur.
Okay, now it's your turn. Do you remember how to say, what do you do?
Que faites-vous dans la vie?
Imagine you're a doctor. Do you remember how to say, doctor?
Médecin. Médecin.
Say, I'm a doctor.
Je suis un médecin.
Now answer the question saying that you are a doctor.
Que faites-vous dans la vie? Je suis un médecin.
Now, imagine you're a teacher. Do you remember how to say teacher?
Enseignante. enseignante,
Say, I'm a teacher.
Je suis un enseignant.
Now, answer the question saying that you are a teacher.
Que faites-vous dans la vie? Je suis un enseignant.
Now, imagine you're an engineer. Do you remember how to say engineer?
Ingénieur. Ingénieur.
Say, I'm an engineer.
Je suis un ingénieur.
Now, answer the question saying that you are an engineer.
Que faites-vous dans la vie? Je suis un ingénieur.
Well done! In this lesson, you learn new occupation-related vocabulary and phrases you can use in your everyday life. You are now able to talk about your job like a native speaker. Great work! Here's a reward. Speed up your language learning with our PDF lessons. Get all of our best PDF cheat sheets and ebooks for free. Just click the link in the description.